Civilizations were built on consequences, not comfort. Fathers enforced standards, mothers nurtured. Remove one side and you don't get balance, you get chaos. And today you can see exactly what happens when the masculine side disappears.
Do you think you should fear your parents?
I think fear has a lot of meanings to different people. I think it's the kind and like what it does to your body.
It's like very evasive.
Yeah, I'm sorry. For me, I myself was in a unhealthy situation with my upbringing. It was not great, so I had so much therapy. And like I myself rebelled, I would say.
But do you think a child should fear their parents?
Honestly, no. I mean, I feel like you should.
And this
look
is the
up to your
feminine
parents.
versus the masculine approach, right? I feared my dad. I feared the consequences of it. I loved him and still do. Love him to death. Great man.
Shit out of my dad.
Yeah, great man. But I was terrified if I fucked up that my old man was going to just lay into me. And he would.
Yeah.
Right? And so you know what I didn't do? I didn't fuck up. That's why I have a clean criminal record, right? That's why I've never been to jail. That's why I've never really had any of these substance abuse issues. None of that, right?
Yeah.
This is exactly what she refuses to admit. Fear of consequences is what prevents chaos. Every functioning household and every stable society is built on that principle. Without it, kids don't learn boundaries. They learn loopholes. And the result is what we're seeing everywhere today. Children who grow up anxious, unstable, or sitting in therapy because they were never given structure, only emotional cushioning. And it's not even about being harsh. It's about predictability. Kids need rules that mean something, consequences that actually happen, a framework that teaches cause and effect, responsibility, and self-control. When you replace that with feelings first, you don't create emotionally healthy adults, you create confused ones. This is the masculine approach Andrew is pointing to. Firm, consistent enforcement of consequences doesn't damage children. It prepares them for reality. It produces adults who can handle life, not collapse under it.
I think it's also like important because I think boys should honestly have a masculine figure in the household.
So should girls.
I agree, yeah. And like for me, my mom never had boyfriends.
Chris donated $200. My Asian parents were hard on me as a kid. I was resentful growing up. I am now a physician and make $100K a month and am grateful for the lessons they taught me. You are not mature enough yet, realize this.
Yo, Chris, thank you so much for the TTS, man. I don't know, is this directed at you if you want to do a response or?
That's cool, but I don't really want to be a physician.
Okay.
That is the delusion of modern entitlement. Someone presents a clear cause and effect. Strict parenting leads to discipline, competence, and stability. And her response is basically, yeah, well, I don't feel like doing that. But that's the whole point. If you don't have discipline, you don't get to pick the outcome. This is why feminine emotional reasoning cannot be the guiding force of a household.
Do you recall?
I have ADHD, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. So I was saying like,
Do you know what it was?
I think that it is definitely a feminine approach to not want to like fear your guardian or whatever. But like, Andrew gave a really example because in his case, I'm assuming from what I've heard, I don't know him that well, that his father did it in a way that really brought him up and like enforced being a good kid or something like
His
that.
father would kick his ass if he messed up.
Yeah, you know. In my case, it was like my mom has mental health issues and she would act out of turn and say if I left a dish in the sink, well, suddenly things are being thrown at me. So it was like, for me, I was in a constant state of fear, not in like, oh, I'm scared.
Sure, but I'm
like
not talking about fear in the sense that like you're fearing for your safety just for nothing.
Yeah.
I'm talking about fear in the sense of fear of consequences.
This distinction is everything. Modern discourse pretends all fear is abuse, but there's a massive difference between fear of consequences and fear for survival. One creates structure, the other creates dysfunction. She keeps blending the two because she's filtering a general principle through personal trauma. But Jake and Andrew are discussing concepts. That's why the conversation isn't connecting.
I think that should be a thing. I think that it's important to have a parental role with someone who you respect enough to adhere to their lessons and
which of the
regulations.
parents do you think is more likely to instill the fear of consequences?
So I'm not the best person for this because I never had
It's
a
a
father
pretty
figure.
simple question. Which parent do you think is more likely to instill a fear of consequences? Mother or the father?
For me, it was my mother. I didn't have any example of a father, no boyfriends, nothing. So I
Right,
don't
so
know.
traditionally, do you think that it's the father's job to instill consequences when the
Traditionally.
children act badly?
Yeah, traditionally, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a healthy fear to have?
Yeah, if it's executed like that, yeah.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I'd say for girls and boys, just the same. But today, in this sort of hyper feminine world that we live in, the mother's parenting tactic is seen as the best parenting tactic.
Who says that?
Well, I think that just in general these days, when it comes to parenting, we see a lot of, put them in the corner and then tell them that you love them, and then that's the way that you discipline a child.
And he is 100% right. Society treats the mother's soft, feelings-first parenting style as the gold standard and demonizes the father's discipline as abuse. And the result? A generation of men who fold under pressure, avoid responsibility, and act more feminine than the girls. And a generation of women who have zero boundaries and end up selling themselves for attention because no one ever told them no. Kids raised without a father's consequences don't grow into stable adults. They grow into problems. The father's approach builds strength, order, and direction. And the mother's approach, without the father's balance, just produces emotional chaos.
But the father's parental tactic is very different to that. The father's parental tactic isn't, oh, I love you so much and you messed up. The father's parental tactic is, you fucked up, here's the consequences. That's it.
Yeah, I think teamwork is really crucial in regular households because there are same-sex couples and stuff. I think it's valuable because both genders add different insights to the relationship and different people take on different kinds of roles. And I think that traditionally, the man of the household does generally have that portion of responsibility.
Yep. And you think that's just as important as the loving and caring aspect of it?
Yeah, it's yin and yang, as long as it's done in a way that is healthy to that family dynamic.
Did you have a father figure who you feared consequences from?
The thing is, my dad wanted me aborted, so he kind of dipped the moment my mom didn't get the abortion.
So you didn't have a father figure that you feared
nothing.
Consequences of?
None. I only had my mom, and she was very intense. I still love her. We're on good terms, but
yeah, lots of the times when single mother households will produce this sort of thing.
Yeah, there's hella studies on it.
See, I know we all love to point out, correctly, that single fathers produce far better outcomes for children than single mothers. And studies back it, in some cases, almost equal to having both parents in the home. That is true. But here's the part nobody wants to acknowledge. With the massive surge in single mother households raising boys, and this cultural obsession with feminizing men, that gap is shrinking fast, and not in a good way. Because look around. Every generation of boys is more emotional, more passive, more fragile than the last. That's not a coincidence. That tracks perfectly with the rise of fatherless homes and the normalization of feminine-style parenting as the best method. And if this continues, we're screwed as a society. There will no longer be a distinction between the outcomes. Having both parents will start producing the same outcome as having a single mother or a single father, because everyone is feminized in these setups. You cannot have a functioning civilization built on men who were raised without structure, without consequences, and without masculine discipline. Degeneracy skyrockets the moment men stop acting like men, and we're seeing that in real time.
I think obviously it's better to have both parents because you do need, having a mom is a crucial role. Growing up, my dad was extremely hard and strict, and he was a disciplinary. So I feared my dad growing up if I did something wrong. But I knew I could go to my mom's room and lay with her, and she'd, scratch my head, and I had that balance. I think in this case, she didn't have that balance, and her dad probably took the disciplinary actions too far, as we learned. And so she didn't have the mom role there. And
on
so
on that occasion where he tied her up, that was definitely an occasion where he took it too
and
far.
I'm sure that's not the only one.
But kicking her out, and you said you went to school drunk when you were 15. It seems like we said, there was a series of actions that led up to that consequence.
But do you not think that might?
And that's the anger and the resentment that came out because of it.
Here it comes. This is exactly the female groupthink nonsense that ruins any chance of honest accountability. The moment Jake starts outlining an actual pattern of behavior, suddenly she jumps in like a lawyer nobody hired, defending a story she wasn't even present for. Why? Because in these circles, being a woman means you automatically get a cheerleader. Facts optional. She's saying, I'm sure that was the only time. Based on what? A psychic vision? A sisterhood oath? You don't know the man, you don't know the situation, you don't know the history, but somehow you're qualified to rewrite the entire narrative to protect her feelings. This is why nothing gets solved. Women like this form a protective bubble around each other's bad decisions and then wonder why they keep ending up in chaos. They validate everything, excuse everything, and twist the story until the woman becomes the victim no matter what the facts actually say. Jake is laying out a clear pattern: drinking at 15, repeated misbehavior, consequences escalating, and instead of actually addressing that, she derails the whole thing with emotional fiction. And it enables the exact dysfunction they pretend to condemn.
You don't think that might be like an outcome of how I was disciplined?
Perhaps.
Too hard?
See? Exactly what I was talking about. Classic reversal of causality. Instead of owning it, I misbehaved, so discipline increased. It gets flipped into, I misbehaved because discipline increased. No accountability, no responsibility. Just a constant stream of emotional justification to excuse bad behavior.
The thing is, like, that's all we have to go on, right?
Yeah.
It's like what you say. But what I've noticed with let's just call it the female machine, right? The female machine seems to operate on feel bad for me, feel sympathy for me, nothing I've ever done, I need to be accountable. Hang on, let me finish and then you can respond, right? Feel bad for me, nothing's my fault, I've never done anything wrong. All of this I have an excuse for. Look, here's my excuse. Let me pinpoint this excuse. This is what I hear kind of time and time and time again. It's really interesting. So I would just ask this. Out of all of you who are here who are making pornographic content, right? Is this really just like fuck dad? He's a piece of shit, and I'm gonna go show my vagina on the internet to teach him a lesson? Is that is that what it's about?
No, I tried to not do it for like a year while I was in school, and it was really hard doing what was it, like 40 hours a week of school, 10-hour days, and then 2 days of the week doing 8 hours, so I had 1 day off a week.
Yeah,
and then I'd be falling asleep in school, and like that's not good when I'm cutting hair. It's not just studying, like I'm dyeing people's hair and cutting people's hair. I don't want to mess that up. So then I finally went back on OnlyFans, and then
I mean, sure, but you're hardly the only person who's ever gone through cosmetology school. This is not a rough school to go through, right? My wife's a cosmetologist. It's not a hard thing to go through. It's not like this master level difficulty of just,
What school did she go to?
Somehow she was able to get all the way through cosmetology school while taking care of her grandmother. Well, I'm not going to name the school because I'm not going to dox any of that, but yeah, she went through cosmetology school while taking care of somebody who was invalid in her family. She never had to sell her vagina online, right? These things are not necessary prerequisites. In other words, like you being tired in school, you working 40 hours a week, like, okay, yeah, that's normal. That's normal, right? Most people don't revert to selling themselves
because
in order
I
to
already
compensate
did
for that. Right.
sell them, so I was like, well, they're already out there, so why don't I just go back?
That I understand. I understand the motivation of money. I want money.
Yeah, and then it gives me the free time to put my time and effort into things that I actually want to do, like, hey, get clients, do hair, I throw events, I DJ and make music, like and I paint, like I do a lot of things, but I just want to have the free time to put my time into things that I want to use to grow my future. I don't know.
And there it is, the pattern we've been talking about. Excuses, emotional justifications, feel bad for me logic. Nothing is ever their fault. And it shows up in real-life choices, like going back to OnlyFans and rationalizing it. But this isn't just about money. It's about how repeated excuses and the refusal to take responsibility, reinforced by peers and social narratives, shape behavior. She's basically admitting, I've done this before, I'll do it again, and I'll rationalize it every step of the way. This is why accountability is crucial. You cannot fix a problem you refuse to acknowledge, and you cannot build a functioning society on feelings over consequences. If this resonates, drop a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to help grow this community.